What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in. Here I got you guys another video. We are going to continue working on our K20Z3 all motor. So on the last episode, we've been working on putting the C3 in, put our clutch, transmission, drop it in as you can see. Got our exhaust header is in, our intake manifold is ready to go. We are continuing to button stuff up in different places. I'm changing out some stuff. I changed out the orientation of our fuel lines. I definitely did not like how the car came set up as far as it goes with fuel lines and all our different stuff. I'm doing my own setup, changing things. For example, on the harness, we did it a little bit differently. I see a lot of people come through here and follow along the chassis, but in this case I decided to go inside. So let's go ahead and continue putting this thing together. I'm really ready to fire it up. So I ran into another problem here. The injectors I was gonna run on the turbo setup are 2150s, so definitely not running those on an all motor setup. And that brings me to this set of injectors, which are K24A2s original injectors. And I already went ahead and tried to mate them with our fuel rail and the intake manifold, but they did not want it to work. They have this nipple here over on the top that prevents it from going in all the way into the fuel rail. So with that in mind, I'm definitely gonna have to get a different setup as far as injectors go to be able to run the K20. So another area I'm looking for a possible upgrade will be our shifting cables. They definitely look like they have seen better days. Let's just go ahead and start putting things together. I think I'm gonna start running our coolant hoses. So the mail just came through and dropped off some goodies. Here we have a nice factory transmission dust cover. So the car didn't came with one, and whenever I looked underneath, I don't know if you guys can see, and it's really dark, but it was getting really rusted. It was taking a lot of dust and dirt and debris coming in. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have. So we're gonna go ahead and put it in. So here we have another packet. Let's see. This is for the power steering system. It's used. That was only like $20–30. I think it comes from an Integra, but I was just looking at the shape of it and I think it's the one I need. We'll see, we'll try it out. So here you guys can take a better look to what the transmission looks like underneath without the dust cover. So yeah, big opening for dirt, debris, rocks, all kinds of stuff to fly in and wreck your day. So I went ahead and installed it, torque it down. Pretty satisfied with how well it closed it out. Sometimes, man, the little things will make you happy. So here we got some of the last stuff that we gotta install. Big thing that we got left is installing the engine harness. But to button things up in the engine bay, here we got some of the last components that I'm gonna be installing. Just putting the alternator, the traction bar, finishing up the coolant system, and then we can go ahead and move on to the engine harness. I gotta run the battery harness also. So we got a couple things left. Let's go ahead and knock those out. Let's go ahead and install our traction bar. So it's already another day and we have a big problem. So last night I was trying to put the alternator and I over torqued the bottom two bolts. Like the bottom two bolts, like both of them. So now I'm finding myself going back on what I just put on, and we're about to take the water pump out so I can repair those holes. Cause right there in the location where they're at, it seems like there's a lot of space to fit the drill and helicoil them again, but there's not really any space, so I'm gonna have to pull it out. So here it is, water pump is out. It was actually pretty easy. So before, I used to have problems taking the water pump off or the intake one at a time because of clearance. But I was able to grind this side of the pump, not too much, just enough to clear the intake manifold and not give me any issues anymore. So I can either take the water pump off or the intake without having any problems. Here we have the tools that we're gonna be utilizing. I already went ahead and fixed one of the holes. Let's go ahead and do the other one. Now we're gonna use some of the cutting fluid and make sure our tab is well lubricated. Tapping it, and it's done. So now that the holes for the alternator bolts are fixed, we're gonna put some Honda Bond and put it back in. So I already went ahead and put it in. Just gave it a little bit of Honda Bond, and now we just gotta torque it down again. Hopefully now for good. So it's been a couple hours, but pump is finally back in. Fixed the bottom two holes for our alternator bolts. I put the alternator in and we're good to go. Now we gotta cover this big gap here with our radiator. So we are another step closer to firing this thing up. I installed the radiator. We got our alternator in place. I still gotta figure out the length on the belt that I'm gonna have to use with the power steering pump being down there. Also went ahead and installed our overflow for coolant. So now I was debating if I should put the axles in and put the tires on, drop the car to the ground, fill it with fluids and start working on the harness. But I think I'm just gonna run the harness and try to get it started and see if it runs, you know. I bought this from what it was supposed to be a running car, so I think I want to try that out before I start, you know, getting excited, putting axles on, tires and stuff, and the thing won't start. But so let's go ahead and I think I'm gonna start running the battery harness and start working out with that, and then run our engine harness. I went ahead and spray a couple coats of paint on our power steering reservoir bracket, and I think it's starting to look way better. After a couple hours of trying to remember where everything went, I was able to fully install the battery harness. It took me a little bit because I had to clean the paint for the grounds, making sure we had some good contact. And so far, so good. Now for our next step, We're gonna be working on the harness. I have a plug for the transmission that came apart. I need to fix it. I don't know if I'm gonna keep those plugs for those injectors. It depends on what injectors I end up getting. But here we are. Pretty close to trying to fire it up. So while I was working on the wiring and stuff, I decided to go ahead and run the harness for the flex fuel sensor. Just 3 wires, but wrap them up in some nice protective loom with some heat shrink and all that good stuff. So that is good to go. Now we gotta go ahead and make a small little harness also for our oil pressure sensor. And for the last sensor that we're gonna be wiring this go around, we have our intake air temperature. We have this plug over here, which came with this sensor, which was just hanging around on the engine bay. It was never plugged to anything on the K24 that came originally with the Civic. So we're gonna go ahead and do the right thing, put a GM one intake air temperature, I'm gonna go ahead and weld it to the intake, and we're gonna splice the pigtail for the GM for the GM sensor. So while you guys blinked, I went ahead and did a harness for our oil pressure sensor. So making progress, pretty late at night, but we replaced this pretty nasty plate that the ECU was mounted on. I got this nice aluminum plate. Make sure I had some spacers to raise the ECU a little bit, give it some breathing room in the back, and we're good on that side. So after I got done setting up the electronics, I went ahead and ran the engine harness all the way where it belongs for now. I still do not have injectors, so I still gotta figure that out. But everything is ran where it's supposed to go. I only gotta do a couple more plugs and go ahead and mount our ECU, make sure everything's connected, make sure everything's wired right before we power it up. So I think my next step here will be to hook up this plate with the ECU, make sure all our connections are good and ready to receive power. So here I wanted to show you guys the little rat's nest that I got going on. I got the harness cable coming from over there, doing a loop-de-loop, plugging into our adapter and to our ECU, which is gonna be mounted here on the front with the plate. I still gotta organize the wires a little bit better so it's a little bit more presentable, but making progress so far. Hopefully everything goes where it should be and we don't have any issues. So this is what our ECU mounting plate is looking like. I think on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. We only have a couple items missing. We need an accessory belt to be able to run our power steering pump. We need some new injectors. We're gonna fab up an intake here pretty soon. And everything is good, coming along so far. So with that in mind, guys, I hope everyone have a fantastic time. Stay tuned. We're gonna keep making progress on this, and it's definitely gonna be hitting the road pretty soon. Go ahead, leave me a comment. I want to hear from you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.